Hey everyone, and welcome to another concept episode with Credit Red. These are ideas and models for future modding unless something official gets implemented. Today we are looking into the possibilities of what you can do with jars in DayZ Standalone. The jar is such a widespread container, every household at least has one for something or another. I don't know if it's just been me, but I've got really carried away with this and found so many different interesting crafting applications for jars, along with a possible slot system and crafting system. I think this is such a great item that it's led me to quite a bit of content that I've had to break down into a series. So this is my first episode where we're going to be looking into crafting food into jars for carrying and storage. So here we go, this is jars, check it out.
Here's the pitch.
When looting through the kitchen of a house and while sweeping through the fridge and cupboards, you could come across an empty jar. You could find label jars already full that you could eat to empty out the jar, but I'll show that in a later episode. But for now, you're just coming across an empty jar. So let's inspect. It's standard in size, with the metal top a little bit worn, even for pristine. Being that there isn't any unbroken glass window in DayZ, I don't know how rare this would make the glass jar. With the lid off, I've also modelled those nice little notches in the jar at the top of the rim, so it looks satisfactory even with its top off. I've kind of modelled the geometry around smaller items, smaller round objects, kind of like the tins. But firstly, before I go into food, I'd love to show you the lighting application for the jar. I reckon one of the best makeshift lanterns is the jar. However, you would need a candle that fits, so enter the tea light candle. Now, these candles are mass made, and you can get them by the loads, by the bag. I haven't done too much geometry into it, as you could have loads of them, and they're super small, typically no bigger than a battery. So you could set up these candles indoors, but outside, they don't do too well. So if you get them and light them and then put them in the jar, you've got an instant lantern to illuminate your camp. Just an idea, throwing it out there. But I know they've got a candle coming out, so it's just going to be interesting to see how candles do to begin with, I guess. Now on to food. After some thought, this is the best system I could think of. If we open up the jar, we've got 2 slots. This is going to fit most of your foods, but will also allow you to craft 2 one-slot items into one. But not just that, but also show some volume according to how much is being stored. I'll demonstrate this now by chopping up some fruit. I take a kiwi, drag it into the jar, then I get a knife and I chop it. You could also do this as in the item gets cut into pieces beforehand and then gets put in. I would have liked to have shown it that way, but it's just extra work and extra models to put in, and I just don't have time for it, unfortunately. Though I do think that crafting chopped versions of foods is a must because of crafting to make proper meals. Though that's a kind of a meal system, and that's going to be further down the line, hopefully. So I'm just cutting that corner and crafting it straight into the jar. Okay, so once it's chopped, it will look like this in the inspect window. So we've only crafted in 1 item out of 2. So this will make it look like there's 1 unit or 1 model piece of chopped kiwi that fills the jar. Going back to the tab window, I was thinking what might work well is once an item has been crafted into the jar, it has become a percentage in the jar than an item. So you would lose a slot and the jar goes to 50% full. I'll explain this in a minute, but first we're going to add a different fruit. We'll add an orange. Get the knife. Choppy choppy. Now we have a jar containing 2 different fruits combined as a percentage. This way will be good for 2 different reasons. 1, if you get a couple of jars, it enables you to reduce the carrying capacity of certain foods. 2, if the nutrition system is coming out in the future, you may need certain vitamins to get from different fruits and vegetables. I'm sure you have to keep up your levels to high and eat certain foods that contain certain nutritional stats. So when putting certain foods together into the jar and turn them into a percentage, this could be a way to combine nutrition stats together and help you to keep your nutrition table in the green. So you've got more carrying space and a higher source of nutrition that you can tailor make. You could have loads of variations here. Here are a few examples. So you could have an orange and apple. Or you might want to collect sets of the same. Now, moving on into vegetables, I think what would be awesome with vegetables and jars would be to pickle stuff. So for this, you're going to need to find vinegar. And what would be lying about in ruined restaurants and cafes would be bottles of table vinegar. White vinegar is what you really use, but as you're scavenging to survive, you want to make use of common items that were left behind. And table vinegar is pretty common in every cafe and restaurant you walk into. So I think that would be a really good thing to utilize in the game. So this is your table vinegar. Going back into tab with a new jar, we add a zucchini. With the zucchini, it's a 2-slot item that one would fill the whole jar. We get a knife, choppy, use the vinegar, and that will give you a jar of pickled zucchini. This is a novelty thing, but if they ever bring in a rotting system that food in your possession slowly wastes away, it will be a great way to use crafting to preserve your food, to have something that you can rely on a little bit more. I've done the demonstrations with a standard size jar, but you could also have different size jars that hold higher volumes, like the large jar here. You could pickle more vegetables together, or even pickle things like eggs when they come in. Going even further afield, and even further in size, if you farmed an area or ran a farm, you could find and make use of larger storage jars that preserve and store your produce. This would be instrumental in creating hordes of food that players could trade or share in their communities. So that's about it for this episode. To all my subs and everyone out there, thank you for your support and patience as it takes a bit to get these videos together. Guys, keep your eyes out for my next video, because in my next episode on jars, we're going to be looking into crafting your own nail bomb. Can't wait to show you that, guys, honestly. So catch me and patch me on Steam and Twitter. And yeah, guys, this has been Credit Dread. Take care out there. Have a nice day.